Now, let's talk about something completely different, but something very, very important, particularly if you've got a child or a teenager at school right now. Gender identity ideology is now so deeply rooted that it poses a significant risk to children and teenagers. James Esses is founder of the Declaration for Biological Reality, and he says it undermines free speech, destroys careers, and tears families apart. And I just say he joins me right now in the studio. Well, Benedict Spence, the commentator, is still with us as well. Good afternoon to you, James.
Julia.
Now, you are co-founder of Thoughtful Therapists. You've been working in this field for quite some time. You've been speaking out in this field for some time. And then you decided it was important for people to make a public declaration about what they thought was right and wrong, basically, factually right and wrong and morally right and wrong on the issue of gender identity, on trans ideology, as it were. So you've set up this declaration on biological reality. I'm a co-signatory and proud to be so. It was published earlier this week. Got 15,000, I think, plus signatures already. We would certainly urge everybody who's sensible and right-thinking to sign this declaration. Tell us first of all why you felt you should set up a declaration, and then tell us what the declaration actually states.
Sure. I mean, in some ways, Julie, it's crazy that we even had to do this in the first place. I mean, a declaration for reality. We should all be living on planet.
A declaration that gravity exists.
Well, this is it. Frankly, myself and others were simply fed up. You know, we think that this is an ideology that has intertwined itself into all areas of our society. We would say, actually, there isn't a single human out there that isn't impacted by it. And so we wanted to send a very clear message to the powers that be that actually, irrespective of whether you're left or right on the political spectrum, that we've got a real issue with this and that we're demanding action is finally taken to try and drive this ideology out of the public systems in particular.
And the declaration specifically states, some recognition of biological fact about children not being indoctrinated in their stuff and people not being prevented from stating those facts without being punished.
This is it. Look, it's broken into 4 areas: child safeguarding, women's rights, free speech, and also protecting lesbian and gay rights.
Yeah.
Who on earth would be against any one of those areas?
I would have thought a few years ago that those would be things that in particular many on the left would be speaking out on and supporting and affirming. And yet it is often on the left that this ideology has taken hold in a way where these are people who are literally telling young gay teenagers that they're born in the wrong body and there's something wrong with them and that they should change their bodies. They are telling young lesbian women that they're bigots if they won't date a woman with a penis. About 40% of people on lesbian dating sites now online are men. Quite clearly men saying that they are lesbian women, they're trans women, and women are being told that you're bigoted if you're not willing to go along with this. This is sort of 1950s stuff. This shouldn't be happening in 2023 in this country.
Oh, it's bonkers, Julia. And I came into this from the child safeguarding aspect, which is a core crux of the declaration. Children are being medicalised and left infertile and then
mutilated. Cutting off a healthy child's breast is mutilation, last time I looked at it.
I couldn't agree more. Children who can't buy a bloody scratch card or smoke cigarettes are being told that they can irreversibly change their bodies, and they're being sold this message in schools that they might have been born in the wrong body. I would say that it's not just ideological, it's abusive, actually.
Yeah. And what I'm fascinated by, I've been talking about this issue I'm trying to think, certainly being on air in 2016 when it was just Talk Radio, I remember discussing that on air, videos of that from way back when. And it's got more and more and more heated, and it's gone more into the public domain. I think often when men started competing, pretending they were women, let's call them what they are, cheats, in women's sport. That brought it to a wider group of people, but an awful lot of women and people working in the field like you have been in therapy, counselling, have been aware that this is an issue for quite some time. And now I think more and more parents in particular are waking up to the madness of what their children are being taught in schools. I've got relatives who've got 2-year-olds, and one of the nurseries, they have trans pride parades for 2- and 3-year-olds at the nursery. I'm like, get your kid out of that school. This is insane. The indoctrination that is going on. People think, oh, it's just something that's happening on the pages of The Guardian. It doesn't matter. It's not. It's happening in most schools, nursery, primary, secondary, university. It's happening in workplaces. And it's happening in every public sphere. In NHS, when they talk about pregnant people. People say, well, that doesn't matter. But it does, doesn't it?
It matters for a few reasons. Firstly, human beings flourish when they embrace reality, not when they embrace delusion. You know, I come at this from a therapeutic perspective. You know, if a client came to a therapist and said that they believed that they were the Messiah, that therapist is not going to say, you know, yes, my Lord, yes, you are the Messiah. But we've got clients coming to therapists saying, you know, I'm born in the wrong body. And, you know, and therapists saying, yes, you are. And they're affirming this. Parents reach out to me. They cannot find a school where this stuff isn't being pushed. You've got sexualized drag queens reading, you know,
what's that about?
Children.
I love a drag queen. That's great fun. Although, of course, you know, if white people dress up as, you know, sort of the minstrels, I mean, it is offensive. Again, that's rightly thought of as offensive. But when men put on what we call women face, that's fine. Well, it's mocking women. It is mockery of women, a lot of it.
It is, but, you know, they say, well, this falls under the, you know, LGBTQ exclamation mark, smiley face umbrella. But the problem is, where does this end? You know, I've seen people calling for what's called minor attracted people to be included under this umbrella.
We used to call those people something else. What did we used to call them?
Well, precisely.
Paedophiles. Paedophiles.
This is it, but now it's seen as an alternative sexuality, an alternative, you know, identity. It's really quite terrifying. But there's people out there who would say, well, this doesn't concern me. As you said, you know, this just takes places in the, you know, the newspapers and all the rest of it. And it's culture war. But, you know, everyone out there is either, and particularly men, you know, I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of men because this has been a women's rights issue for so long. But, you know, men out there who are husbands, who are fathers, who are brothers,
sons. Every one of them is a son.
This is it. Everyone is being impacted by this. You know, we've got 15,000 signatures in 48 hours, which is quite good. I'd encourage anyone who believes in biology and reality to simply sign this. We need to send a message to the government that this cannot continue.
Benedict Spence, let me bring you in, because it is one of the things I find extraordinary in this government. That I remember when I did the Tory hustings, leadership hustings last year, and I asked both Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, you know, as a trans woman or woman, they both said no. I moved on straight away. When I spoke to Keir Starmer, I can talk to him off air, I just can't talk to him on air because he's frit. Hello, Keir, you've got the guts, do come on. And I said, you know, I'd love to interview you, but I will ask you how many women you think have penises. The latest on that is that, I think it was an interview he did a couple of months ago, he said that not all women have penises. No, of course not. But 99.9% of women don't have penises, which means 0.1% do. Given how there are 30+ million women and girls in this country, that's a heck of a lot of women in penises. And yet, in all the changing rooms and the loos and everywhere that I've ever been, I've not come across a single woman with not one. Why do you think the politicians are so cowed on this issue? Because I don't believe for a nanosecond that any of these politicians actually think that if you two turned up and said, actually, I'm a trans woman, that you are actually a woman.
And who would disagree with me, frankly?
For some very good facial hair action, gentlemen.
It's, I think it is because it's a bit of a catchphrase to say politicians are out of touch, but they are, in the sense that they listen to what I think a lot of activists, a lot of special interest groups, as your previous caller.
Stonewall.
Yeah, they listen to what people say and what they're telling them, and this is what the research says, and they don't necessarily have the time or the inclination to actually go out and go, well, hang on, let's dive into this, because they have X many other things to do. So they think, this sounds nice, this sounds tolerant, this sounds progressive, so they go, yeah, okay. And it's only when they get a real weight of the backlash, because initially they can prevent a lot of the backlash getting through to them mentally by just going, that's just the extremists, you all get that. It's only when you get a sort of a critical mass.
That's just the transfer.
I could potentially lose my seat over this, that they might go, this is a thing.
Or the logical extension of the policy, which is, for instance, that men can rape women, get convicted, and then say, actually, I'm a trans woman, and then get put in a women's prison, where they can rape women behind bars. And that's the reality, and it's actually happened.
Or when this ends up having a major socio-economic effect. Now, it's very interesting. Miriam Cates was talking earlier this week, the Tory MP, talking about the need for people to be having more children, and that's for economic and demographic reasons, all that sort of thing. We're not going to have enough people to pay for the NHS. If you are instilling in young people, doesn't matter how small a group of it is, young people, sperm counts are already falling, lots of fertility issues are already happening. If you also push on them the idea that you can sterilize yourself because it's a matter of identity before you even reach adulthood, what is that? That is only going to compound what is already going to be a very serious issue that is facing us now. It's not 10 or 20 years down the line.
I mean, coming back to you, James, I'm amazed when I talk to some teenagers about this who claim to be non-binary or trans, and we used to call those kids crazy, mixed up, unhappy kids. The ones that we just, you just wanted to hug and just, I'm sorry, you're obviously not comfortable in your body. And we're told that, everyone feels like that. I never doubted my gender. I've never doubted my sexuality. I understand some people do, but there is a difference, isn't there, between, we're told this is like the civil rights battles for gay people, decades ago. There's a difference between the fact that people are actually gay. People are actually, attracted to people who are either same sex or opposite sex, or maybe both, that those people exist. They're a much smaller minority than perhaps the broadcasting world would suggest. And the vast majority of people in this country are completely at ease with that, and no issue at all. And thankfully, we've moved on a lot of that. The trans issue is very different, isn't it? Because someone saying, I believe I am born in the wrong body, is a completely different thing, because no one is born in the wrong body.
Correct.
It's the same. So if I came to you as a 15-year-old girl and said, I want to cut my breasts off because I think I'm a boy, I am a boy, for you or for anyone else in that field to basically say, yes, we should affirm that, and yes, let's go ahead and let's send you along to a doctor and let's put you on drugs that will make you infertile, etc., etc. I mean, you would never do that if I came along and said, I don't believe I should have my left arm. I believe that my left arm is an extra limb that shouldn't be here, doesn't belong on me. I want you to cut it off. No doctor would agree to do that. So why do we make a difference for breasts and for sexual organs?
Because the narrative has become one of identity rather than one of a mental health condition, which is what this is. But, this expects others to disbelieve everything they know to be true. I mean, an employer who encourages an employee to put their pronouns in their online signature, that's the equivalent of asking them to put a small prayer at the end of their email signature. These are all one and the same. They're ideological beliefs. There are children out there struggling with a debilitating mental health condition. Yes. They deserve empathy and therapeutic support. There are others for whom this is a trendy fad. I see primary school textbooks. You've got all these multicoloured flags of the different genders and sexualities you can be. And then for straight and cis, it's just the white page.
That's all we get.
Who would that appeal to? It's boring and stale.
It makes you interesting.
This is it. Yeah. This is it. And, particularly for young girls, I think, it's tough going through puberty. It's unsurprising that many of them are uncomfortable in their bodies. I'm sure most of us were uncomfortable during puberty.
No, I wasn't. But then I didn't grow in an age where women have been pornified. The clothing lots of women are expected to wear as teenage is... I'm sorry, I don't want to be a prude, but oh, my God, they look like prostitutes, a lot of teenage girls now. I'm sorry, they do. And girls who don't want to be a part of that and say, well, this isn't for me, and the stuff that boys are seeing on porn and think that girls want and that they should be doing, I can understand why a lot of girls are going, no, I don't want any part of this.
That's a crucial point, Julie. You've got young girls being, sexualised. You've got young boys being told that masculinity is toxic. You can understand why people would almost want to identify out of their sex, but it's not in their interests.
And we as adults shouldn't lie to them. As you said at the beginning, we need to be honest with them.
Of course we should. And, I've spoken to parents who are suffering so dearly because they've become estranged from their children, but they weren't willing to lie to them. And they said, my duty as a parent, first and foremost, is to tell the truth to my children, even if it costs me my relationship with them.
But when you have organisations like Stonewall, like Mermaids, who've been heavily involved, who are influencing a lot of what goes on in schools, influencing the NHS, influencing, the government. For God's sake, the government is paying this organisation to give them advice on these things. They have no business advising anyone on any of their stuff. They are spouting stuff, which is, I think it's homophobic. I think it's the modern homophobia. And I think it's misogynistic. I think it's anti-women, and I think it's anti-science. It's anti-biology. It's anti-reality, and no taxpayers' money should be paid for this.
I couldn't agree more. It's good to have you on the Declaration.
Oh, absolutely. You put it better Declaration for Biological Reality. Look it up online. Sign it, because the silent majority need to start speaking out. James Esses, you're absolutely a hero on this one. And again, a lot of people say it's a women's argument. No, it's not. It's for everybody. And really appreciate you doing that.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you very much indeed to you and Benedict.